Action.
שלום וברכה, ומזל טוב לך, דוקטור נחמן רוזנפלד היקר, ליום הולדת ה-80. ימי שנותינו בהם 70 שנה, ואם בגבורות 80 שנה. את זה אמר דוד המלך, אם בגבורות 80 שנה. כשהגעת לגיל גבורות, בגיל 80, אתה ראוי לברכה מעומק הלב. זה גיל מכובד מאוד, אבל עדיין נותן תקווה גדולה, לא רק על זיכרונות העבר, גם על תקוות לעתיד.
נתאספנו פה כולנו, בני המשפחה והחברים שלנו שלומדים איתנו, להודות לקדוש ברוך הוא ולספר בשבחו שזכינו שהגיס שלי מלא חוכמה, מלא דרך ארץ, מלא חוכמת חיים ותלמיד חוכם גם, למלותו 80. מודים לקדוש ברוך הוא.
One of my biggest assets in life is the fact that I know that I have my dad to support me. It's one of the best gifts he's ever given me.
I think family is the most important thing for him. I think he would do anything for his family.
Super educated, kind, home run as a father-in-law.
He's very close with me. I think we have a really close relationship.
He has great advice for everyone.
He's really the nicest. He's very smart. I think he's a genius.
I think he is a very accomplished man.
Authentic, generous, loving, and caring.
And I am very proud to be his granddaughter.
He's a man of few words, unless he's telling a story.
I really think he's an exceptional human being.
Nachman's my grandfather.
He's someone worthy of acclaim, and I thought this would be the vehicle in which we can show our gratitude and recognition of all that he's done and been there for us for.
I'll start with my parents first. They were born in Poland. They made Aliyah in 1935. My father was born to a very Haredi family, but he was a Zionist. He organized groups to move to Israel. He arranged certificates for them because at that time Israel was under the British mandate, and they required certificates to come to Eretz Israel. At that time was named Palestine.
My father was a carpenter by trade from Poland. So that's what he started doing when he came to Israel. He looked for a job as a carpenter. If he couldn't find it, he was working for the British. When the British left, he worked in a carpentry as a carpenter. Then he opened a business.
He opened a store of ice boxes. At that time, there were no electrical refrigerator. And he did very well until the electric refrigerator came in, and then he had to shut the business. My mother used to be a teacher in Poland, but in Israel, she was a homemaker.
My aunts would tell me about my grandmother, who was a school teacher, how everybody loved her and she was so beautiful that all the little children would follow her home after school just to be with her because she was so loving.
His parents were amazing. My Savta, his mother, Sarah, just like a heart of gold. Just hugs and kisses and love all the time.
My dad was born February 16th, 1943 in Palestine.
My grandmother's parents, her father passed away at a young age from typhoid fever, and I'm named after him. His name was Nachman.
We have 4 siblings, older sister Miriam, Nachman, me, and my younger sister Nili.
I was born in Tel Aviv. I was the youngest one. We had a great childhood, my sister and I. It was a great neighborhood. We had a lot of kids, and we had the best time.
Oh,
תראה, אנחנו גרנו באמת לא רחוק מהסביבה הזו, והייתה סביבה מקסימה, שהיו בה המון ילדים, והייתה שם שמחת חיים, והיה כזה כיף שאי אפשר לדבר.
So I was born in 1943. I was born basically a Palestinian. On my birth certificate, you see Palestina, Eretz Israel. I grew up in Tel Aviv. The street was Rambam. It's in the center of Tel Aviv. It's between the market, which is called Carmel Market, Allenby Street, which is the center of Tel Aviv. We grew up modern religiously. I went to the kindergarten. It was a general kindergarten, but when I started elementary school, I went to a religious public school. In kindergarten, I met a friend by the name of Eliezer, which stayed friends until his passing on. And also our parents became close friends.
I know that my uncle Eliezer and him were in Gan together in kindergarten, and they were best friends. And then they separated when he went to high school, and then Eliezer came to Midrashia for the last 2 years of high school, so they were together again.
My father was he was a very smart boy, my dad. He was a very good student, very smart. So I guess he was always treated as the gifted, whatever the word you want to use is gifted, smart, special, like whatever it was.
He was the king. He was Melech for all of us.
But he didn't take advantage of that. He didn't abuse it. He was a good boy, he was a good son, and he was an amazing brother. And he always helped me in math.
When I finished elementary, we had to make a choice.
There was a discussion whether he should go to religious public high school or go to yeshiva high school. And there was an uncle, a distant uncle, who influenced my grandfather, said he's so bright, he should go to the best school you can get him into. And he was accepted to this high school called Midrashia, which was one of the best high schools. And I think my father told me a lot of politicians and big, dignitaries, their children graduate from there, or they graduated from there.
And he was a good boy, and he would just followed what my father thought was good for him. When he at 1.5 to the yeshiva, my mother cried a lot. She really didn't want him to go. She thought he was too young. But my father said this is the best school. It was one of the best schools in Israel at that time. And so he went. He was a very good son. They loved him so much. They really did.
And I think he really liked it. He enjoyed it. I think his nickname there was the encyclopedia, as far as I remember.
Nachman left, I was 6.5 maybe. I remember that he came to visit on weekends. ולא ראינו אותו הרבה, אבל כשהוא היה נניח לחגים או מה, אז היינו כל המשפחה ביחד. וזה באמת היה כיף, חוויות וסיפורים, ואני חושבת שהוא היה די מרוצה. הוא מתגעגע הביתה מאוד, כי הוא התגעגע. כל אופן, אתה יודע, מתגעגעים לסביבה, לשכונה, אבל אין ברירה, זהו. מה שהיה בעבר זה היה קדוש.
Toward the last year, when the last year came to close to an end, I had to make a decision what I'm going to do afterwards. I had to join the military. We had the obligatory service for 3 years. However, the army had a plan that if you want to go to a medical school or to engineering or any other specialties the army needs, they'll give you a deferral.
And he said he always wanted to go to medical school. That was always his goal, so he decided to pursue that.
Yes, from elementary school, because we learn about the Gemara and all history, so when we learned about the Rambam, so I said, if this person can be a doctor and a scholar, I would like to imitate him. This was the main reason. So I knew I want to go to medicine.
And then the question was, should he go to the army or go to medical school first and see if he can do that before going to the army? But that was very difficult to do. You had to take a test for the medical school and a separate test to get the permission to defer the army, both of which he passed. And then to get into medical school, there were 60 spots for about 1,000 applicants. There was one medical school in the entire country. So that was another hurdle, which he passed again and was accepted.
He did well there, and medicine was not for him. He always wanted to be a surgeon. He said he needed to use his hands.
I need to know what the problem is there, and I want to solve it right away. When I went through surgery, So we had a patient, he had appendicitis, he opened the belly, he took the appendix, he closed, he finished, and that's it. And this I liked. When I rotated through plastic surgery, I said that's what I like the most, and that's what I started to do.
So he ended up doing 6 years of, he said it was combined undergraduate and medical school together. And then after those 6 years, he did 3 years in the Army as a doctor.
During the entire period, I kept good contact with Eliezer. We were still good friends. He went to a more religious type of education. He joined a yeshiva at a younger age, but we were still in touch. He got engaged to a girl by the name of Toby Finkelstein.
My sister was engaged to her husband, my future brother-in-law, and he called me. I was living in Canada at the time with my uncle. He said, "You have to come to Israel. You have to meet my friend. You must meet my friend."
So I said, "Listen, I'm busy and I have tests, I have to..." He said, "No, you've got to do it right away."
And I said, "Okay, before I make a commitment over here, let me go to Israel."
So she came specially to Tel Aviv, and we met. And the first time I met her, I said, that's probably, that's what's gonna happen. And we met, was around Hanukkah, I think, something around that. And we got engaged before Pesach, and in August we got married at that time.
We almost died when we saw her the first time. She was so beautiful, so pretty. Oh my God, this princess.
She walked in and we kind of like, wow. She was a beauty queen. She was beautiful. She was nice. She's the kindest person ever.
My wedding, I had really very little to do with my wedding. Nachman's father organized the wedding. My mother maybe helped a little bit, but she was in Germany. We had 650 people, I remember that, which I knew just about nobody.
I remember them at the wedding. I remember the people. I remember the happiness, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
We had a beautiful wedding. We rented an apartment and we moved in by Kikar Malchei Israel, which is still a beautiful neighborhood.
We used to visit them a lot because you got the best food at that house. Henya with the ice cream and the ice cream banana split, amazing. We loved coming to visit them. They were terrific. And then I got married the same year that Nachman did. So Nachman was the only guy that drove a Volvo. So he drove me and my husband to our wedding. In the Volvo, we have a picture.
Immediately after we finished about a month or two later, I finished the internship and I joined the Army. It wasn't easy, the Army, 3 years, because the first year I had to serve in the Sinai. At that time was after the 6-Day War. It was the war of attrition. And I was stationed on the banks of the Suez Canal.
זה היה בזמן מלחמת ההתשה, וזה היה מאוד קשה. הוא היה נשוי, והוא היה בתעלה, והדיה הייתה פה, מסכנה הייתה לבד, וזה היה מאוד קשה. הוא היה בעליתים רחוקות, ועברנו תקופה לא פשוטה. דאגנו, ידענו מי יודע מה שיכול להיות. אבל תודה לאל, יש אלוהים, הוא שמר עליו ושמר עלינו. וזהו. ועבר את זה בשלום.
And I was the doctor taking care of the whole territory there. One weekend, I went to my commander, who was a commander of the whole area, and I said, you know what? If I cannot go home, how about if my wife come to visit me once in every few months? She said, no problem.
So I went there for that weekend, and then the guys are playing football outside, you know, the soldiers. And we were there, we were resting in the afternoon, and suddenly it started, bang, boom, bang, boom. It goes like zzz, bang.
And within 20 minutes, he had a barrage of bombardment, non-stop, every square foot, a bomb.
They were shooting at all the football field, and they knew exactly where to shoot because this was their old camp or whatever.
We managed to run to a bunker until it stopped. Then I had to treat maybe about 15 wounded people there.
And then they took me out on a helicopter. They had one seat left on the helicopter. You know, they had a lot of seats, but there's one on the side where only some person can sit. And I went out on that seat on the side. I wasn't nervous. I think I was too stupid to be nervous. Very shortly after we got married, I had a child already. And I remember my water broke, and he said, I have half an hour time. You have to deliver in half an hour. And he took me, I think, to Tel HaShomer. Within half an hour, I delivered.
Toward the end of the Army service, I had to decide where I'm going to do my residency, getting experience and trained in plastic surgery.
Nachman was applied few places, I guess, to go do plastic surgery. And he got accepted to Albert Einstein, and he decided to go that way. That's why he came to New York.
Dror was born in '69, toward the end of the year. And when he was a year, we had to move. So we have to schlep a baby and move to New York. Bayside was a beautiful, beautiful, peaceful area of Queens. It's in the eastern Queens. It's bordered with Douglaston, Little Neck, and Great Neck. I loved it. It was still 1971. 1971, we came to the United States. To the end of the year, we moved to Bayside, which we lived until 1980, almost 9 years.
Why do we move to Bayside, Queens, which is an arbitrary place, although I loved it. My dad had 2 aunts who lived in Bayside, Queens. They emigrated after the war there, and they were both survivors, and they were very happy there. So they said that all the Jews, it's a vibrant Jewish community in Bayside, Queens. My parents, coming from Israel, fresh behind the ears, like they didn't know anything, said, okay, It ends up being that it wasn't the most vibrant Jewish community. I really loved growing up in Bayside. The people that I grew up with, whether it was a synagogue or the neighborhood, I developed relationships with, and they were, growing up. You remember your formative years of growing up, and those are the fond memories that I have.
We lived very close. We were very close together. On Shabbos, on Friday night, we ate together. And when we went for a vacation, Henya took my baby son.
Time to time, my wife took the kids. Or Henya had such occasion that she had to go to the mother, which was in Germany. And I stayed with Nachman at home, and we had to manage the house, 2 houses. And of course, I was the chef. I didn't know it, but I was the chef, and we prepared everything, and we did it very, very well.
My husband and Nachman were like brothers, really. They're very, very close.
We came to the States. Of course, for me, it was a shock to see all the cars which look like buildings. In Israel, all the cars were smaller cars, and it was, for me, amazing. Nachman told me, look, I have for you a present. What is the present? He said, I have a car. I changed for a new one. You can take this car and use it. What happened is, whenever I wanted to start it, the car moved in the start beginning, but he made a lot of noise. It was like an airplane. Oh! I felt not that good in the streets. And after a small while, it happened to be that this car used to do only noise. At the end of the day, I didn't know what to do, and the story was very, in order to make it quiet, I left him in the street and said bye-bye. And this was the last time that I saw this car.
So my father did his residency. It was 3 years of general surgery and 3 years of plastic surgery. The last 3 years, the hospitals had merged with Montefiore, so it was even bigger and very busy. And I think he worked for maybe 48 hours straight, and then he had 24 hours off, and then 48 hours, 20. It was very different then. In those 24 hours, I know he spent a lot of time with my brother. So that was nice. By the time I came along when I was 1, he started his private practice and he was even busier.
The end of the resident comes in, you have to make a decision what to do. People who have any doubts if they're going to make it in private practice or not, they want security, they join a hospital team, they get paid by the hospital, they have an employment, they have nothing to worry about, they go home, they no practice to run. The only problem is you work on a salary. If you have a good boss, you have a beautiful life. If you have a lousy boss, it sometimes can be a calamity. And they can kick you out in 1 minute. I said, it's not for me, I want to be independent. So one day, after I finished my residency, I put a shingle on the office, and in no time, I became very busy. It never entered my mind that it won't work. It's such a bitachon in Hashem, it's going to work.
Oh, I knew from day one I'm going to run the office. This wasn't even a question.
1976, I believe it was. 1976, they opened the office.
I think he also had a little bit of a benefit that my mother was the office manager, and she is very knowledgeable. We used to joke that she knows just as much as him, and she just can't do the surgery.
And they had bought a house, which my parents felt that it was a good location for them to open up their office. So they bought the house for my uncle and aunt, and they converted that into their office, which is still their office today.
I was 34 when I opened the practice. Henya was an office manager, and we announced it all over the hospitals, in the papers, locally, publicly, and within a few months we got busy, and until today, busy. And then the office expanded. Initially I was just in Queens, then I went into the entire 5 boroughs, and then to New Jersey, part of Connecticut, upstate.
Every night or every day that there was an opportunity, they had office hours in a different location. Let's see if I remember this. Monday night was Brooklyn. Tuesday night was New Jersey. Wednesday night was the city. Thursday night was Queens. Sunday was Long Island.
Non-stop.
With my uncle and aunt who moved in and that we were very close with, they had a daughter, as I mentioned, my cousin, and my mom was so enthralled with this baby girl that she decided she wanted a girl. And I guess God was listening to her, so they went for it and they got a girl. So my sister was born. My parents decided to move to the 5 towns because they felt that there should be more children for us to grow up with and have more friends, because there weren't many friends for us in Bayside.
It was mainly because of the children. I needed a good education. Dror went to Yeshiva of Central Queens, but he had to travel from Bayside to mid-Queens every day, so I said it's not for me.
We met him when he came to Lawrence, and we told him about this house. At that time, I was the president of the Young Israel, which was extremely small, and he was one of the first early members when we were still quite small.
So I invited them to my home, and there was this house that he lives in now, and Nachman and Henya came, and I told them, you can look at the house, but I saw it with a broker, and you would be obligated to pay her some sort of fee because it was, the broker who that we saw it with. And Nachman spoke in Hebrew to his wife, Henya, and said, get rid of her, she's a broker. And I said, usually the president of the Young Israel of Lawrence Cedarhurst, his wife probably knows some Hebrew too.
And since then, we've been friends for a long time, the 40-odd years that he's been living here, and it's always continued.
Once they moved to the 5 towns, they stayed in that house, and they still live in the same house today.
That's the house I grew up with. I spent 6th grade through high school there. I have my oldest friends there today. I proposed to my wife there. That house has more meaning to me than I can ever say. What do I remember growing up? I remember my father being a resident. I remember him working hard, but always doing things with us. I remember him taking me to places when I was a child. He would take me to the Luna Park. He would take me to the airport. I remember that was a big thing, I guess not only for shidduch dates, but for take your little kid to do something with them.
He was really great. I had a really happy childhood. I wouldn't change one thing about it. They worked but when they were home, they were home, you know, and always on the weekends and Shabbos. And I remember one time I complained that we don't do enough, so he started taking me to the aquarium and the museums. He was great. We once went to that aquarium, and I had a blankie, like a little blankie that one of his patients actually gave him when I was born. And we were at the aquarium, at the New York Aquarium in Brooklyn, and it just started pouring, lightning, thundering, and we made a run for the car. And I had the blankie in the car, because I'd never left without it, and we were about to leave, and I noticed it was gone. So I was hysterical. I need my blankie. And my father's like, okay, it's pouring, it's raining, it's thundering, it's lightning. He runs out through the entire parking lot till he found the blankie. He brought it back, looked like a wet rag, but it took about 15 minutes for him to find it, but I was so relieved. So he was a good father.
My sister and I both went to medical school. My father probably spent over $1 million in our education, and neither of us are practicing medicine the way we thought we would. In fact, there were times where I didn't know what I wanted to do, and he said, don't push yourself. Do whatever you want. Figure it out, and then decide. Like, even if I had to take time off, he said, then take time off. He wanted what was best for me. He always wanted what was best for me.
I know he's always been there for me. No matter what is happening, is just unwavering support, unconditional love and support from my whole life, no matter what.
I just know that whatever thing I take on for myself, just to have his input, acumen, guidance, I just feel like it's an edge for me. I feel like the odds are kind of more in my favor just knowing that I have him there. You know, I've been bestowed many great gifts, whether my family, my wife, my children, but my father is definitely one, if not the greatest gift I've ever received.
Nachman's my grandfather. He's my Saba.
My grandchildren, to me, are like children. I see no difference. I really see no difference.
My grandfather is a wonderful role model for all of his descendants, his children, his grandchildren.
I feel like our family is one big unit, and he really holds us together. He really cares about us, and he wishes all of us the best, and he does everything he can to make sure that we're all together. He organizes these Passover trips every single year for Pesach, and we travel a lot together. We do those kind of things. We go on these fun trips, we have a great time.
My Saba is very caring, supportive, adventurous, intelligent. Yeah, he's great.
I think we have a really close relationship. Like, I feel like I could tell him anything. Like, I'm not scared to tell him anything. Like, when I was little, he used to sit with me. Whenever I watched Disney movies, and he was just so patient, he would sit with me and watch them with me. And he's very loving.
Because you were able to spend time with Nachman Roosevelt and hanging out with zoos and aquariums. I liked just swimming around the pool with Henya and Nachman.
A lot of people loved Tzvi, but there are really a handful of people who connect with Tzvi in a certain way that is meaningful and brings out something in him. And I have to say, my father-in-law has always been that person, or one of those people.
I like to go to Cunningham Park with Nachman.
I've never heard him say no to any of them. He always tries to get them to think more and ask them like questions of how to use their mind and to progress.
My best when sometimes do homework with them, especially Jewish studies.
Whenever I have a question about like something Torah related, he knows the answer right away.
When we were younger, he did this thing at Shabbos tables whenever we were all together called $10 questions. So he would ask a question on the Parsha, and whoever got it right got $10. So it was a very competitive thing, and it got everyone involved and excited.
He will always let you know what he thinks, whatever. He'll just say what's on his mind. He won't hold back.
Whenever you ask him for something, he says yes. He goes, sure. That's one thing he always says.
Saba, can we do this? Saba, can we do this? Sure.
Sure.
Sure. And he always seems so sincere when he says it.
Sure.
Sure. I remember when I was younger, I always wanted to sit at the head of the table. And I told my Saba, and he insisted that I sit at the head. And it's become a tradition, and every single time I go to their house, he always insists I sit at the head of the table. Even if he's comfortable watching the news, I come and he gets up and he opens a chair for me. He's like, come sit. And so I always sit at the head of the table now.
We were flying to Dubai for Passover last year, and we were in Israel first for a week. And the night before, I got really, really sick. It was probably the sickest I've ever been in my entire life. And I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking like, I'm gonna die. It's crazy. It was really bad. And without saying anything, he just comes into my room and sits there all night with me, sits next to me to make sure I'm okay, make sure I'm breathing, make sure I'm alive, you know? And he told me after, he's there to make sure if anything happens, he's there to help me and that I'm okay. So like he really just, his actions speak, like, say a million words, you know, speak a million words, and you really see it. Like he has my back.
I feel that I'm really lucky to be his granddaughter. He's someone who does so much, but you would never know it because he doesn't talk about it. He's so modest in what he does, yet he's so accomplished. And I really do feel lucky to be his granddaughter.
To turn out like him would be a very special thing.
My dad had a very close relationship with his father, my grandfather. My grandparents would come every summer and they would spend time with us, and my father would always treat him like a king, and you know, I learned from that, and that's, I guess, why I treat my father so reverently.
My dad is a very disciplined person when it comes to getting everything done that he needs to do, when it comes to work, working out. And I really think he does get that from my grandfather. My grandfather wakes up early in the day. He has his routine. He knows when he's eating, the exact time he's eating his breakfast, the exact time he comes out of the pool, the exact time he's in the car. And because he does that, he's able to balance all his responsibilities. And I've really seen that passed down from my grandfather to my father.
Nachman is one of the most punctual people that I've ever met. Poor guy, he's waiting often for many family members in this family. Not everybody is as punctual, unfortunately.
One of the nicest things, actually, that my sister said about me was that she sees the relationship I have with my father the way he had with his father, so that kind of made me feel nice.
Pinchas was named after Dror's wonderful grandfather, Nachman's father, Pinchas. And I'll never forget, it was before the bris. It was the night before the bris. And we had other names chosen that we thought were more current. And at the last minute, we said to ourselves, he's Pinchas. This is Pinchas, name for Pinchas. We're going to call him Pinchas. I think that Dror's father, Nachman, got a lot of his charisma from Pinchas, and I think Pinchas got his charisma from Pinchas. So it's one of those things that really trail down each generation.
My nephew Pinchas' bar mitzvah, after my grandfather Pinchas had passed away, he gave a speech on Friday night, and he talked about how his father was his best friend, and he always turned to him for advice in life. Even till the week he died, he called him. He was in Israel. He called him every week. They had a standing time, and they would talk for a long time. And after he passed away, he always felt like something was missing. And then when my nephew Pinchas was born and they named him Pinchas, he felt like complete again.
Well, Dror has Sarah and Pinchas. It's my parents. Can be better than that. And every time I say Sarah and I say Pinchas, I remember who they represent.
His reputation as a doctor is excellent. I mean, he's a 5-star plus doctor. He has offices and he still works full-time. He still has patients, lining up.
My father has a very solid work ethic, something to aspire to. He just tries to do the best he can, and most of the time that's exactly how it ends up. In fact, all the time that's exactly how it ends up.
He cares about work. If he has to be in the OR at 6:30, or he is out of the house by 5-something. And he sees his patient before surgery, and of course when they come back to us, within 48 hours Nachman sees all his patients who were in surgery.
I remember sitting in many waiting rooms when we were out doing things, just waiting for him to finish sewing a laceration or treating a hand injury or whatever it was. He said, "Don't touch anything, everything's dirty, just sit here and wait." I mean, when I finished my plastic surgery residency, I worked with my father for a few years, and honestly, it was my favorite time as a plastic surgeon with those few years. We operated together. After, if we finished early, he would come over to my house in Jamaica State, which was only about 10 minutes from where we operated, and Lily was a toddler then, so she would climb on his lap, and we'd all have a late lunch together, and then we'd go off to do office hours that evening.
even it's not in his field, he knew many things. I remember when my daughter broke her nose, so he came over in a few minutes and he just repaired it. We didn't have to go to the hospital and nothing.
Nachman has a sterling reputation as a doctor. He was always there and he was always helpful personally with my children too. One of my children needed stitches. They fell in front of somebody's house, and the next week they fell by their coffee table. And Nachman was kind enough not to send protective services to our house.
He's a straight shooter. He will tell you as it is. You want to hear it? Good. You don't want to hear it? Also good. I tell my patients, you're going to hear the truth. You like it, you don't like it. Okay? And that's what they say. I'm here to hear the truth. I'm not here to be sugar-coated.
When I started my plastic surgery residency, and I was kind of panicking because they kind of throw you in the deep end. They don't give you any information, and you're on call. And of course, I was on call July 4th weekend, which is very bad for a plastic surgeon because people hold the fireworks in their hand, and boom, hand injury. And anything that came in, my father's like, just call me if you have any problems. So at 3 in the morning, the first month or two, he was very happy to talk to me. He was always there. And then after the first couple of months, the calls kind of tapered off. He said, I know you're getting the hang of it because you're not calling me at 3 in the morning anymore. But he's always there.
My father, his work ethic is amazing because other doctors can't keep up with him. He basically can operate from 7 a.m. in the morning till whenever they would let him. He works in a surgery center, which I'm one of the principals of right now, and the workers just can't keep up with him. He would just work straight through. He has no problem doing 4 or 5 cases a day, but the doctors, like the anesthesiologists who are half his age, they said that they can't keep up. They're too tired, they have to go home. It's just, I don't know if it's a gift or whatever you want to call it, but he just keeps on going. It's quite amazing. Even as my father hits his later years, these doctors who are half his age, they can't keep up with him. It's quite amazing.
Judaism, Torah, all this dominates our life. There isn't a Shabbos he doesn't go to shul. When I come home at night, sometimes he has time and he sits and learns. He goes on YouTube and he learns.
Judaism and Torah is a tremendous value to my father-in-law. It's who he is.
He has an unwavering belief in, Judaism and God, and that still is a source of strength for me. And there was never a doubt. Dror and I both went to Haftar Yeshiva day school, and we both went to Israel for a year to learn. I went to Michlala, Dror went to BMT. Still today, I have been through various things in my life where that's been tested to various degrees, and I've never wavered. And part of that is my father's strength. He's always right. Anything you ask him, any question, whether it's knowledge or life-based, anything, he's never wrong. And sometimes I think, no, he's not right. And then I see later on that he was right. He's always, so, when he has that strong belief, it gives me that strong belief,
We do learn together every Saturday afternoon from his brother-in-law, who's one of the biggest rabbis, Silverstein.
And it never ceases to amaze me how my husband and Nachman know so much about all the different rabbis who give all their different opinions and how they can quote varying sources. It's amazing.
As I mentioned to you, I try to follow the way of the Rambam. He was my idol. A doctor and a scholar and a Talmid Chacham. He was a scientist. Because I know a lot of people, they brush off the science and say it's not important. I think it's important because we have to know everything. I think it's important to know science and physics and philosophy. When I was young, I have here the Encyclopedia Britannica. I don't know if you know what it is today, but you have Wikipedia. I read it from A to Z. I think it's important to know. We live in a beautiful world. I like to know how it works.
One of his favorite things to do, he has a stack of Israeli newspapers on his dining room table, and my poor mother-in-law drives her crazy because he used to just take them and throw them next to him like a pile of Israeli newspaper garbage. Once he would read them so quickly and have so many on a regular basis. He knows exactly what's going on politically in Israel, and he has his opinions, as most Israelis do.
He explains me about politics in Israel because I don't understand what's going on. So whenever you have a question, you can ask him.
He'll always tell you halacha and what the answers are, or, he'll always know something about something, which is quite amazing, and it's good for storytelling for the grandkids.
And if we have a question about anything, like Judaism, life, science, we call him, and he just has the answer. He doesn't have to look it up. It's all in his head, and no matter what he's doing, we get the answer within the hour.
So whatever he says, I want to listen, I want to know what he has to say, I want to learn from him as much as possible. So but if he does tell me something of wisdom or something I should know, or a story, I'm listening with my undivided attention.
My Saba is very passionate about soccer.
In our backyard, there's like the house has a tennis court against this little house by the pool, and he would play soccer there, and he would teach me how to play, and then I would play goalie, and he would play goalie, and it was a lot of fun.
גמרנו בפוטבול. הוא אוהד של קבוצת מכבי תל אביב. זה חשוב מאוד להגיד, הוא אוהד מכבי תל אביב. בכדורגל.
He would, sometimes I remember back in the younger days, take me to some soccer games.
And when the Cosmos came, we would go to Cosmos games every Sunday, whenever they were around. It was very important to him. We went to a World Cup game when they had it like 15, 20 years ago. They had the World Cup. We went to that together. In fact, I think the next one's in 4 years. He's already telling me to get him tickets for the next one.
And he always told me he used to play when he was younger, and so he likes that.
Oh, he loves soccer. Yeah. I mean, Israel, you grow up with a ball. You grew up in the carriage, you have a ball.
Oh, I watch soccer every Motzei Shabbos, all the synopsis from the English League. I love the English League. This is so beautiful, you can't imagine. When you have a regular team that they play a whole year together, and each one knows how to play with the other person, it's like a concert. It's so beautiful. Soccer is an art.
He's been saying forever that he's going to retire in 2 years, he's going to retire in 2 years, and then it changed, I'm going to retire when I'm 80. And now he's almost 80, so I don't know, I guess we'll see.
All good things have to come to an end. I understand, life moves on, and if that's what suits him, then, just want him to be happy.
He's been talking about retiring for a long time. The truth is, I think at this point, we're getting to that home stretch. I think that he's really seeing himself having a little bit of downtime. But it's hard to imagine because this is who he's been. This has been his life.
No, I don't. As long as he has hands he can use, he's going to be operating, doing something. And that's good because I think it keeps him young, it keeps him happy, gives him a purpose, and he really loves what he does,
But I think it's time. He said 80 is a good number, it's a round number, and I think it's time and it's right.
I'll tell you, I didn't like to retire, but all of a sudden, I look at the calendar, I see I'm 80 years old. You can't fight this number, I feel okay, I'm in very good health. I swim every day. My hands don't shake. I still do the same operation. But it's time.
I wish for him in this next chapter of his life that he can really just appreciate this time, appreciate everything he's accomplished, how far he's come, the family he's built, and that it's just full of happiness and health.
His next chapter in life, probably learning, maybe traveling, climbing the next mountain. I would say continue on the path he's been on all his life. He's straight, he's sincere, and he's just a wonderful person.
I certainly would expect him to continue in his intellectual activities and his learning.
Travel, שיצא לטייל בעולם, שירת את העולם. הגיע הזמן, כי הוא היה כל הזמן בתוך העבודה. כל הזמן הראש שלו היה בתוך עבודה. הגיע הזמן שיצא, שיראה את העולם.
Relaxed, fly to visit the kids, come more often to Toronto, meet us in Florida. Just enjoy whatever you can when you're healthy.
You know, he was always so much working and busy, so I wish he spoke Gam Henya and all the whole family just to enjoy life.
And just do things that make him happy and fulfilled, you know, until 120, or Mashiach comes, whatever's first.
He's someone that people aspire to be, whether it's family, business, relationships. He's proficient at it all. He excels at everything.
I'm most proud of my Saba because of all of his accomplishments.
I'm proud of him because of the life that he's built for himself and helped others build for themselves.
I'm his legacy, my sister's his legacy, our children are going to be his legacy, and their children, God willing, one day will be the legacy. I want them to know about their father and grandfather and great-grandfather.
Who he is his legacy. He's kind and loving and warm and always there for you no matter what, and brilliant and a hard worker and just, you know, and modest about the whole thing. But when somebody needs help, you can always count on him.
Good-hearted, modest, generous, quiet, נחבא אל הכלים.
הוא אדם חם, הוא אדם אוהב, הוא אדם מסור למשפחה.
And he's helpful, and he has דרך ארץ, and he's כבוד, and he's a special guy. He's really a special guy.
We are all blessed by his presence every single day in our lives. 80 equates strength, and that in Hebrew is gvura. And really that is my father-in-law. He is a pillar of strength that we all, you know, hang on to and look up to and love so much.
I love him dearly.
I love him and I miss him and I hope to see him soon.
I just wish for him only the best in everything. Just want him to know how much I love him and appreciate everything he's done for me, been there for me my whole life, and I just want him to know how much he means to me and how lucky I am to have him, and that I know that. That's it. I'm gonna start crying, so I'm gonna stop.
If I could be the father to my children that he was to me, that would be the greatest accomplishment I feel I could do.
Make me feel so young. You make me feel there are songs to be sung, bells to be rung, wonderful fling to be flung. And even when I'm old and gray, I'm gonna feel the way I do today. 'Cause you make me feel so young. You make me feel so young.